All right, so moving on along the video, we are on problems 22 through 24. I'm going to go through 24 with you, and we are asked to find the average rate of change on all of these problems. So what I've done first is I have used my graphing calculator because, again, they're not using X and Y, but this W here, this is like your X, and up here, that is like your Y. So what we're going to do is if X is 1.2, we're going to find Y, and if X is 3.2, we're going to find our Y. Let me rewrite these. So I've turned on the calculator. I've already done this part. Let me just move over here so you can see. So I've already put the values in. I put 1.2 in, you can see, and 3.2. So I'm going to round these to the nearest tenths. It doesn't specify which way. So I'm going to make it 7.5 and 67.3. All right, so 7.5 and 67.3. So average rate of change, put our Y's on top. I'm going to do 67.3 minus 7.5 in the bottom. I'm going to take the 3.2 then minus the 1.2. I just have the calculator on the side now. I'm not going to flip back to the calculator screen. So I'm going to subtract my numerators in the top. And I get 59.8. Subtracting the bottom, I get 2. And now I'm going to have to divide them. And that gives me 29.9. So just about 30 over 1. All right, moving to the next part. So we're not going to do all of these, but we will get the graph set up together. So what I need to do and what you need to do is make sure you have all these points correct. So important points. So this is 0, 0. Another important point would be right here because we're going to turn. That's 210. This point is another turn. That's going to be 310. Up here, that's going to be 5 and 15. This one will be 6 and 15. Here is 8 and 1. And here's 10 and 0. So remember, you can always pause and get these written down. Just getting a few questions answered. So this graph is about how far away you are from home and how long it took you to get there. That's the time in hours. So what was the furthest distance away from home and when was it reached? The furthest distance that he was away from home was 15 miles. And that happened anywhere between 5 and 6 hours. Let's see. Let's do this one. Average speed on the interval from 0 to 5. So that's just average rate of change. So I'm going to need my Y values. So with X 0, Y is 0. And if X is 5, Y is 15. So now I can make my fraction. Oops. And I can take 15 minus 0 for my Y's, which means I'll do 5 minus 0 for my X's. That's 15 over 5. And when you divide that, you get 3 over 1. So the average speed is 3 miles per 1 hour. The next one is, I'll answer is D. Over what interval were they jogging the fastest? So it didn't say they were jogging, but I guess they were jogging. So the fastest they were jogging is, again, we're looking at a change, an average rate of change, and we want to look at the steepest line. So in my opinion, from here to here, that seems steeper than this one does. How do I know? I can actually just look at the picture. When I go from here to here, I'm rising 10 and going over 2. So that would be 5 over 1. And on this one, I'm rising up 14 and going over 2. And that's 7 over 1. So this being the bigger number makes that one the steepest. So on what interval were they jogging the fastest? The interval, I'm going to put my time, so T in between 6 and 8, where I started and where I ended, and I used the X values. How do I know? It's the steepest slope. All right, and then the last question is, I'm going to F. What's happening on the interval from 2 to 3? So we're looking right here. So from 2 to 3, they aren't moving, they are resting. So They are standing still. All right, let's move down to our next question. So the same thing, we're going to need to know these points, and we'll do a few of them together. So let's see. So I'm going to say that this point, this is an important point, this is 0, 5. A, they marked for some reason. Maybe we need it, so we can go ahead and say that that would be 215. This point here, I think that's about 3.5 and maybe 21. Here's another important point. That's going to be 6.5 and, I don't know, 7. And then there's not an arrow here, so we're going to end this. We're going to say it's at 8 and about 28. All right, so what's this graph about? Well, the x-axis is the time in minutes, and this is the velocity. So basically it's saying how many minutes does it take us to reach this velocity, to reach the speed. So what was the highest velocity reached? That would be right here. Whoops. And when was it reached? So the highest velocity was 28 miles per hour. They don't ask when it was reached, so I don't need the 8. What was the acceleration between 1 minute and 3 minutes? So if I look at 1 minute and 3 minutes, let's see, here's 1 minute and about 3 minutes. What was the acceleration? That means I'm going to need to know what that speed was. So I will need to do an average rate of change here. So at 1, I think we're about 8. And at 3, I would say we're at right at 20. So then again, I can do my slope. I can do 20 minus 8, and then 3 minus 1 for my x's. So I subtracted this way. That's going to give me 12. Whoops, I don't even know what happened there. That's going to give me 12 over 2, which is 6. 6 over 1. 6 miles per 1 hour. And I think the next one we're going to do is F. At what time was the object traveling the slowest? So I definitely want the flattest area possible. So because steeper means faster. So I think if I just look at this whole graph and I pick the slowest, flattest part, I think that's just right about, here we go, right about here. So maybe somewhere in between 3 and 4 seconds, because I mean, that's pretty steep, that's steep, that's steep, but this area seems pretty flat. So somewhere between 3 and 4 seconds. 3 to 4 seconds. All right, anything left we need to go over? That's it. That is the review. You need to do the rest, and we'll be turning this in tomorrow.